Hello wonderful person, this is Anton, and today we're going to be talking about a very interesting asteroid we actually talked about in one of the previous videos, and this is an asteroid known as 16 Psyche. It is one of the most massive asteroids in our solar system, and it's actually very unusual, and we might have a mission that will discover a little bit more about it very soon. Anyway, welcome to What the Math. You may want to actually check out one of my previous videos to learn a little bit more about it, its history, its discovery, and so on and so forth. But in a nutshell, it's basically the largest asteroid that is made almost entirely out of metal. It's a metallic asteroid. It's a so-called M-type asteroid, which is kind of rare. And today we're going to be using Universe Sandbox to do a few collisions and a few explorations to try to discover what happens if it actually does collide with a planet like Earth, for example, or a planet like Mars, which might happen one day. You never know. It's relatively close to Mars in terms of the location in our solar system, because Mars is right here and Psyche is somewhere in the asteroid belt. If I actually click through these individually, I might be able to locate it. I don't exactly remember where it is, but it's somewhere out there. And its orbit might one day cross Mars, and they might actually collide with it. So today we're going to do a little bit of exploration on what happens if Psyche collides with a planet, specifically either Mars or Earth. Now, what is really interesting about Psyche is that we're going to have a mission that has finally been accepted a few months ago. And this mission is going to go and explore Psyche. It's actually a spacecraft that we're going to launch known as Psyche Orbiter, I believe. And the Psyche Orbiter, or I guess Psyche Mission itself, is going to be launched in 2022 and arrive in 2026 using Mars for gravitational assists. And it's going to basically, well, here's actually a visual representation of what it's going to do. And this is directly from NASA. And basically what we're going to be doing right now is we're going to also launch the Psyche asteroid, as you watch in the video. But what is really interesting about this mission is what it's going to be trying to study. It's actually studying the history of our solar system. And just for fun, I'm going to place Psyche in orbit around Mars first, just so you can see what it looks like in terms of size. But as you can see from the mission from NASA, it's actually very interesting looking. So it's consistent of mostly nickel and iron, or nickel and iron alloy. And this alloy is something that is usually inside of planets, inside of objects in our solar system. So basically, most of the cores in our solar system, like for example, if I look at Mars, that little core right there is made out of iron-nickel alloy. And so this, we think, might be actually a core of an object, possibly a planet, possibly a planetesimal, or possibly even a large planet that used to have this as a core and then something happened to it. And if this is so, this kind of changes our understanding of the solar system. It changes the perception that we have of our solar system, and also might actually redefine our understanding of how the solar system was created. Now, there's actually three main types of asteroids in our solar system. There is the C-type, or I guess carbon type. There is the S-type, and there is the M-type. The M-type asteroids are relatively rare, and this is the biggest of such asteroids. And it's actually not just the M-type, but it's also a very unusual asteroid to begin with. It's super, super big for a metal-type asteroid. It might even have its own magnetosphere, which is very important to study. And if we can actually go and even land on this asteroid, we might be able to discover how to make magnetosphere on objects like Mars. So figuring out if this object has magnetosphere, and if so, how we can create it, is super important for our potential colonization of Mars. So maybe, just maybe, we might be able to even find a way to somehow use the technology to potentially use Psyche to create magnetosphere on Mars. Now, this is obviously something in the realm of science fiction right now, but you never know. As you can see, Psyche kind of falls apart into rings into basically little particles and creates a ring around Earth if you place it too close to Earth, because it's so tiny, and because even though it has a high density of 7.87 grams per centimeter cube, Earth is just more massive. The density here is only 5.51, but it's just more massive. That's why the ring is created. If you run this long enough, the ring will actually start orbiting around Earth indefinitely. Now, we discovered this asteroid a long time ago, back in 1852, and we've known about it for a long time. We originally thought it was a planet, but then we realized there were so many of them that it turned out to be an asteroid. And this core, or I guess this exposed core, may have belonged to something that was even Mars-sized. It may have been a planet that was Mars-sized, but how it got exposed is not known to us. We think it may have experienced a large collision, but then where are the other particles? If we actually look around in the area where this asteroid orbits, which is somewhere out there, I don't know if I can, maybe I'll get lucky. It's one of these, I don't know which one, but I might get lucky and find it. I think it might be actually, oh, there it is, I found it. Ha, it's right here. So yeah, if this object orbits in this particular orbit, it should have some kind of leftovers that came from it, and we don't really see anything that's similar to it, so it doesn't really have any other family members, which is kind of unusual. So how did it actually form? Well, we don't really know, but this mission that we're launching in 2022 will hopefully discover it. Now, there might be some other unusual theories that we'll be able to solve by going here, mostly because this object, which for some reason is actually invisible here, but I think I can maybe turn it into full body by pressing this button. There we go. This object might actually help us understand a huge amount of things. Lots of scientific discoveries and facts will be actually cleared up by coming here, and so it's a pretty important mission. But this is all going to be done in the future. For now, we can only speculate and play around in Universe Sandbox and create some amazing collisions. And if you were wondering what the orbit of this object is, let me actually just show it to you by enabling the orbits, and so you can kind of see this is how it orbits. So it doesn't really come that close to Mars, but if it actually interacts with Vesta or Ceres gravitationally, it might one day end up getting pulled to Mars. And if that actually happens, it might end up colliding with it. So let's see what would happen if one day Psyche actually collided with Mars. And because it's such a dense object, it would create a tremendous amount of energy. So we're going to just launch it at a regular speed and observe it as it approaches Mars and collides with it. So it's a very small object in comparison to Mars, but you'll see how much stuff it actually releases into everywhere. And even though it's so small, just the density itself and the mass will cause Mars to experience a tremendously large collision, followed by more miniature collisions, followed by probably a lot of warming up and heating, and essentially this would actually, well, I don't know if it will, but it might be a somewhat interesting way of terraforming Mars, especially if we just collide a bunch of water asteroids with it and then see what happens. But then that would also kind of maybe not be the smartest way of doing it, because I'm sure we can find a better way. So as you can see, the collisions are actually not done yet. There's more coming on the other side, and all of these little particles will eventually land on Mars, warm it up, and there will be a very large crater right here in the middle as well. So for all we know, maybe this is what happened to Psyche itself, and this is what turned it into the remnant core that it is today. But we don't really know. Now this is Mars collision, and if I actually accelerate time here, we might see if it ends up warming up a little bit. I'm not actually sure if it's going to warm up. Oh yeah, it warmed up already, but now it's cooling down again. So it released quite a lot of material into space, but also delivered a huge amount of iron to Mars. And maybe, just maybe, this is how it could potentially give it magnetosphere that it absolutely needs. But that's also very speculative, as we don't really know exactly how it works just yet. Now let's do the same to Earth. Let's see what happens on the planet Earth if such a large asteroid actually collides with our planet. Now, a chance for this happening is actually pretty low because there's just too many things that would prevent a collision of such caliber to happen, but you never know. The chance is still kind of there, just not very high, but it's there, but it's not very high. But so here we go. It's a very small asteroid in comparison to the actual planet, but don't forget the radius here is 127 kilometers, making this almost 250 kilometers in diameter. It's basically size of an average state in the United States, or a pretty small country, I guess. So you'll actually see it in comparison to Africa in a few seconds as it approaches our beautiful planet and collides with it in a few seconds. So this asteroid is definitely something that we need to study a little bit more because it's just a very unique object. We don't really have that many other similar objects in our solar system that have such an unusual composition. And for all we know, this might be actually a pretty good place for a colony and even a mine, because it might have a tremendous amount of precious metals and other metals, heavy metals, that we might need for the future of space exploration. Now, the explosion here is a little bit more dramatic than it was on Mars, mostly because I guess it just collided at a faster velocity, because the gravitation of Earth is stronger, so it pulled the asteroid a little bit faster at the end. So the total energy released was much higher than it was on Mars. And as you can see, this pretty much destroyed a huge part of Africa, Europe, and kind of very likely killed most of the life on Earth, because this used to be green. Now it's all kind of not green. It's a different color. It's brown. And you can see the water retreated, and it's still retreating. And it means that the Earth is warming up. Yep, all water is gone. That pretty much means that this is the end of the world. And now there's a lot of water coming back, and tsunamis everywhere. And so that's essentially what would happen if this beautiful asteroid that we'll hopefully get to explore in a lot of detail in 2026 decides to collide with Earth. Well, anyway, we'll talk more about this mission and this asteroid when it actually comes to fruition, but for now, that's all I wanted to do in this video, and hopefully you'll learn something about it, and do check out the video I made previously that explains a little bit more about this asteroid in a little bit more detail. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Come back tomorrow to learn something else. Space out, and as always, bye-bye. And it looks like there's a little bit of green left right here in India. Maybe not everything died after all.